Welcome back to Chris and Retro. This is a follow-up to a video I put out earlier about the shooting in New Mexico, the Red River, New Mexico area with the motorcycle clubs involved. There's a couple of corrective things I wanted to put in there because I responded to some earlier information and it's been cleared up by New Mexico State Police on who was actually involved. So for starters, I understood it was the Vagos was the other club involved. It's not. It was the Banditos and a club called the Water Dogs MC. Never heard of them before, but they were involved. So this is not an action news report or any type of news release that I'm trying to accomplish here. But I do think it's important to follow up because as we start to get the details of what happened there, it makes it more ridiculous as we think of our choices, and the implications, those unknown consequences that come out with these poor choices or high risk living, as we've been calling it on the channel. And I think that this probably illustrates it. And keep in mind, I have no connection to this. I don't know people there. So, I mean, I'm just reacting as other people would to news as it comes to me here in New York, of all places. I'm so far away from that. But based on the information I have that has been sent out and based on those that are reacting to it, I feel like most of it's fairly credible on what happened if you weren't actually part of the two clubs knowing all the details of what happened. But what's being alleged and how this started is just, I think, a perfect illustration. I think of Chad Marks. I don't mean to refer to him as much or as I do, but I find a lot of his story very much crosses over to what we're talking about here. I look at Mitch Smiley and what he's done as well, and looking at how one instance in time can change everything. You look at Mitch's situation. He got into a bar fight, and one of his people with him stabbed the person he was fighting, and that person died, and now they're all getting murder charges. In Chad's situation, he had a friend, he was rolling close to the edge. He had a friend with a wire. Then we start talking about, kids on Facebook with a few that are reacting over laughing emojis over pictures that turns into fighting and somebody being shot and killed in a park later that day because of Facebook laughs. So these are the things, just these moments in time that we get ourselves involved in that we don't think through the ultimate consequence. And I think that's true of whether you're in these motorcycle clubs or if you're just in everyday living. How many people this week, it's a holiday weekend, are going to be getting in a car intoxicated? I have. A lot of my history comes from driving while intoxicated. There's some very serious implications to that I've had to face, of some of my charges being DWI charges. I've also had, other things as well that were all related to alcohol, which is going to be another point that I'll get into here. But, for those of you getting in a car this weekend and you're so used to it, you don't feel drunk, but you are over the legal limit. Let's just say that you are driving fine, but somebody pulls out in front of you with a bicycle, you're glancing at your phone and you run over them and kill them. You're done. We had somebody here locally. He was a vice president of a trucking company. Sunday afternoon, doing his normal routine, going bar to bar in his classic pickup truck, ran over a veteran in a wheelchair on Main Street, dragged him behind. He was intoxicated enough he didn't notice the person was being dragged behind his vehicle, and now he's in prison. So vice president in a trucking company, just enjoying a Saturday with his nice truck, and is in prison. So these things that we get ourselves involved in, the implications are far beyond anything that we probably would have signed up for had we known them beforehand. So I'll wrap up this story real quick with a few things. One is I talked earlier about the younger generation and really the decisions they're making. And when I say younger, I'm thinking, not even so much the 18-year-olds, but probably 18 to like 30. I'd say that range is different in terms of how they decide. So I'm going to share with you the slides in this thing, a screen on this thing, so that you get a sense of who's involved, and hopefully that'll help illustrate some of my points. So there's 8 individuals that are involved and identified as members. So there was 3 deceased individuals. Anthony Silva, he's 26, of Los Lunas, New Mexico. Randy Sanchez, 46, of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Damian Brew, 46, of Socorro, New Mexico. One of these individuals is a president of the local Banditos chapter. And so I think it's Lunas and Sanchez are both Banditos, and Brew was a water dog. The state police investigation, they said that they learned that there was a confrontation that occurred between these members, and the shooter, the lone murder charge right now is a 30-year-old. So you got a 26-year-old dead and a 30-year-old dead. 2 46-year-olds are dead as well. But we know that a lot of the motorcycle clubs have people that have been around for a while riding. So we have a 26-year-old and a 30-year-old was the one that pulled the trigger. Jacob David Castillo, he's with the Water Dogs, 30 years old, Rio Rancho, New Mexico, was charged with an open count of murder. He was also injured in the incident and hospitalized. They had two other charges out of this thing. Christopher Garcia is 41. He got possession of cocaine. And Matthew Jackson, 39. He's out of Austin, Texas. He's a chapter president of the Austin chapter of Bandidos, and he got carrying a firearm in a liquor establishment. So as you can see, all these charges were minimal because people aren't really going to talk about who did what. But cameras got the first guy. So Jacob Castillo decided to, at 30 years old, to open fire very obviously at a festival and shoot and kill two people. So let's talk about what the above and beyond the obvious. No matter what the situation was, if you're going to resort to that, it shows the lack of thinking. I'm not condoning any scenario of this. Just hear me out. But how much further it demonstrates the lack of a thought process to do this at a rally, a motorcycle rally. If you felt so passionately that you were going to make that bad decision, why would you make it at a rally if it was actually for some principle? It shows to me that this was a a haphazard decision based on the emotions of a moment. And the fact that it was in and around a bar, probably alcohol played heavily into this process. So there was no principle behind it. It wasn't a code. It wasn't standing up for your brothers. It was a fight that got so far that another man, likely drinking or on something else, decided to open fire and kill two people. I don't know all the puts and takes of it. I don't know who shot first. But here's what really drives me crazy. So all these immediate lives affected. Guess what started this? An online picture of the Water Dogs that they took with another motorcycle club before they left for this rally. Somebody from the Bandidos online noticed this picture. So a picture on social media led to this. Now, was it saw the picture, pull the trigger? No. It was a series of high-risk decisions that led to other high-risk decisions without recognizing the slippery slope this was headed down, that ultimately fell off the cliff for many involved, and I'll explain how that is. So the picture's taken, somebody from the Bandidos observes it, they show up at a motorcycle rally, they go to this bar. I think they said there was something like, I'm going to scroll down through this article. My understanding is there are a lot of people there. I think it's like 12,000. There's the shooter that killed those two people. It doesn't show how many people. At one point, I thought it said how many people there. It might have been another article I was reading, but I think it was about 12,000 people or some ridiculous thing that's going to be in there. A town of 500 that weekend. Anyway, so it wasn't like they took the picture and then somebody showed up and bang, shot them while they were there at the picture. All that time lapsed. They showed up at a bar, and in the proximity of a bar, words were exchanged. Still nobody's dead. Words were exchanged over a picture. Depending on what that picture meant and what it stood for, and if it was mocking somebody, I suppose with alcohol involved, I can see that happening. You've got two motorcycle clubs that don't like each other, or maybe the other one was affiliated with clubs or somehow tied to a club that they don't get along with. I don't know the politics in that area. But I could see how it alternate, words could be exchanged. With alcohol, I could see how it would turn to a fist fight, which it did. But, nobody's dead. It's a fist fight. And then somebody decides to brandish a weapon and open fire. Now, if I walked up to this gentleman, I don't know if he was the first shooter or the last shooter. But if I walked up to this guy, let me switch it back over for you. Jacob Castillo. If I walked up to this fine young man in the street and I said, hey, would you ever kill somebody over a picture you posted that your club posted online? Would you ever kill somebody over a picture your club posted online, like right now, in this moment? He might say, oh, yeah, I'd do anything for my club. I'm speculating, but maybe he would say something like he would stand for his brothers or whatever. I don't know, whatever standard they live by, because I don't know anything really about them. But I would assume he'd probably have something to say. If I said, no, right now, What would be the scenario that would cause you to kill somebody over a picture you posted or your club posted? I don't think in any circumstances he would say, well, it would probably take me going to a rally, not knowing somebody had seen the picture, getting a fight, getting a verbal altercation in a bar, and have it turn into fist fight, and then we'd shoot each other. And that would be the best way for me to handle that altercation for my club and for other motorcycle community. I can't imagine a scenario where that individual would ever make that decision. But yet, that was the decision that was made. Again, I'm not saying that he's responsible for all of it. I don't know the chain of events. I'm putting a lot of disqualifiers in here because I want to make sure that I'm not, making too many assumptions, except for the fact that this is the case. We went from one picture to 3 people dead and 5 others wounded. And we went from that one picture, 3 people dead, 5 people wounded, to charges that will be coming. Some of them minor, probably because they don't have the evidence to support it, but maybe over time more will come. We have sentencing that'll come. And if there's no other sentencing that comes involved, you can bet this man is going to get all of it, every single thing they want to get. And probably his club is going to get all kinds of things put on them as well. We know the FBI is involved. So this is now adding to the national commentary about motorcycle clubs and the pressure they're putting on motorcycle clubs all across the country, whether they're good clubs or bad clubs, depending on your standard of what's good and bad. We got 12,000 motorcycle riders coming to this 500-person town. And out of those 12,000 motorcycle club riders, we have 2 clubs that got into it, and we've got 8 people that are going to change the course of time for that rally, and for that, and for everybody in that area for a long time. So here's the other part: is not only is the national presence dealt with, regionally they're crushed. I mean, the state police, I'm not saying the clubs are going to go out of business, but they're going to get a lot of hassle. State police has declared that all law enforcement have been instructed under all circumstances to pull over people with a patch. So if they literally cited 1 mile an hour of the speed limit, any type of infraction at all that they can observe or just at all conjure as reasonable cause, they're going to pull over motorcycles and search them. Now, the one club heavily involved in this, including the one person that got charges for carrying a weapon inside of an alcohol institution, has to drive all the way back to Austin, Texas on his motorcycle. What do you think is going to happen between New Mexico and all the way across the state to Austin, Texas? How many times do you think that club's going to get pulled over on the way, and how many times are they going to need nailed for something else? This small town has DWI checkpoints on both sides of the town. I'm sure they're checking for many other things. That's just that local environment. So what does this do overall? So let's go back to the premise. Potentially, that one picture apparently represented something. I would assume some sort of disrespect that led up to men arguing with alcohol involved to stand up for their side of their patch and what their club is. That led to a physical altercation that led to a shooting. The point being, it all started standing for your club, and the end result was one of the worst possible things I would argue you could do for your club. You've put your club in a situation, and your friends and the people around you, in a situation where death was present, where your club is going to be under massive scrutiny. If you are involved in any nefarious actions, you can count on more charges coming, because the FBI is definitely going to have you in the crosshairs, because every single time you're a headline for anything, you're going to be a lightning rod for all things. You're going to become a poster child of what they can do to you. All of this over a picture. Let's take that illustration and let's push that over into all of our lives. Some of the petty things that we make high risk actions over, or high risk responses over, and with no thought that this worst case scenario could play out. I'm not saying living in fear and walking around with your hands in your pockets, just super careful of life. I'm saying that things along these lines. We're not in a world right now where you can do whatever you want to do. You got to think through things better. And in this case, aside from the tragedy of life lost, in some respects, these are things these guys sign up for, I think, based on that commitment of a lifestyle. I don't think anybody gets on their bike in the morning, no matter what your walk of life is, and says, I want to go get shot at a motorcycle rally. I can't imagine that ever happens. And certainly, I got shot over a picture on social media. It's like we're a bunch of 14-year-olds. yet the youngest person here was 26. I wanted to follow up with my video this morning because I felt like the details that had come out at later on today just made this so much more astonishing. We're not talking high risk living where we're driving too fast drunk, or we're, out, playing our finances too tight, or we're, a serial killer just constantly dodging. We're talking about grown men, two established organizations fighting to the point of death over a picture. How ridiculous are we as a society, honestly? Well, it starts with us controlling ourselves, making better decisions in the moment. Hope you guys have a good rest of the day. Enjoy your holiday weekend. If you're on a motorcycle and you're part of a club, count on getting pulled over and being watched. This is going to be your new day. It's unfortunate for those that just want to go out and ride, but that's what's going on. For the rest of us that are not going to be riding this weekend and we're just thinking about our lives, see how quickly something so small can unravel. That 100% illustrates the point that I've been trying to make about our high-risk living and total destruction is closer than it appears. Thanks for tuning in. Until the next time we talk, please stay out of trouble.